Good morning from the Woodland Retreat on this somewhat grey morning today. It was a beautiful day yesterday, but today is clouded over a little bit. But day of healings today in Cardiff. So just a little message, little video. Seems to be interesting and conflicting energies about at the moment. Energies of conflict, maybe incitement, protest, things that are bubbling up that need expression. And it's interesting to watch some of this stuff. I mean, you won't see much of it on the news, on TV, but I tend to kind of have a little look, dip into Facebook occasionally and watch some of these things that come up on the news feeds. And sometimes you got to question what the sources are of the information that you're getting, but most of the time you're starting to see now a larger body of individuals who, having been directly affected by the occurrences of the last 5 months, are starting to push back a little bit. And I guess that's natural. I mean, I had a conversation with an old friend of mine on Facebook yesterday about why don't people push back so much about climate change, sex trafficking, HS2, all these things that are in your face as well, but don't seem to have the same level of energy and buy-in from the masses. Okay. And I guess I responded that it was all to do with the fact that most of us humanoids need a burning platform under our arse to actually do anything. Okay, one of our, I suppose, lack of virtues is laziness and apathy, and unless we are directly affected by a situation, we're not really driven to respond or react to it, even though we might think there might be something bubbling in the background. But it's interesting, actually, because it reminded me of a Zen teaching, which I heard a few years ago, actually, of a master who had a very small group of disciples, and they all lived together in this little ashram or house or whatever it was. And the master resided on the upper levels, in the bedroom upstairs, and the students and the disciples, they kind of resided downstairs. They cooked, they cleaned, they looked after the house. And one evening, one of the disciples set fire to the kitchen. Not sure how, but he set fire to the kitchen, and the house started to burn. And so they were all running around panicking. Oh my God, the house is burning down. We must wake the master. He'll know what to do. We must wake the master. And this chap was asleep upstairs, snoring his head off. So one of the disciples runs up to the stairs and knocks on the door loudly and walks into the bedroom and shakes the master. And this master's like, what's the matter? What's the matter? Oh, it's this master, the house is on fire. Master, the house is on fire. We must get out. And he just looked at him calmly, serenely, with no panic or fear in his eyes, and he said, when the fire gets to my bedroom door, then you can come and wake me up. In the meantime, bugger off. So it kind of goes contrary, doesn't it, a little bit to how we tend to panic, react, and run around like headless chickens when we perceive some kind of situation in our lives which is, in inverted commas, bad, right? Versus maintaining a more objective view of the situation and a more in-the-moment, calm-centered response to it. Now, I'm not saying the master was right, he must have had a window he could have jumped out of, right? But it kind of shows a difference in attitude, behavior, and consciousness when clearly something is amiss, something isn't of the norm, and the response or the reaction to it then dictates the next round of karma, if you want to call it that. So the disciples in the house could have run around, chucked buckets of water over the fire and panicked and not really helped the situation, right? But the master, in his wisdom, just decided to see how things were going to go for a little while. And if the disciples had managed to put the fire out, then he could have stayed asleep. Okay? And what you're seeing, or what I'm feeling at the moment, is a high level of divisiveness amongst people, really. People who, I guess, if they were just trundling along in their ordinary, normal lives, wouldn't bat an eyelid or wouldn't, say boo to a goose. But because things are starting to ramp up a little bit and what's happening is affecting them directly, then depending on what's happening and what energies they're trying to express, that can manifest in many different ways. Protest, violence, but also judgment. All right, judgment's a big one here because there's a lot of rhetoric at the moment coming from individuals who, I guess, in what you might class as spiritual circles, would normally be spouting love and light and healing and all this kind of stuff. And what's happening now is that I'm seeing a lot of really harsh rhetoric and judgment, which doesn't really take into account the perceptual filters that they're obviously being projected through. So I always go back to the old Marcus Aurelius Stoic philosophy of life, which basically states that everything that happens in life should be embraced and loved fully, wholly, okay, and ultimately used as fuel, compost for growth and transformation. Amor fati, yeah? I love this. Love everything. So whatever you're seeing, whatever you're feeling, okay? So if someone on Facebook has posted a video of people getting arrested in their houses in Australia for under the guise of incitement because they've shared some Facebook posts questioning the rhetoric, questioning the pandemic, questioning the need for all these rules and regulations that seem to be coming in play. And so you got the thought police coming through the house and with their masks on and their search warrants and whatnot, and arresting normal people, pregnant women, people who, you don't know if the video's true, right? You got to question everything. Some people like to stage these things to incite and to kind of create energies of certain motions and forces that could then create following and protest and rally. So again, you have to question the source and the truth, and use your discernment when you're viewing these things. But what's more important really is when you're viewing it is not necessarily where it's come from, what it's doing, but what's it doing to you inside? How are you feeling when you're seeing something like that? Okay? Are you feeling angry? Are you starting to feel bitter? You can't bloody do that. Or are you just watching it objectively and seeing it a little bit more for what it is? And most of the time, how we transform our impressions, how we transform the energies and impressions through our senses, through our mind, through our heart, our emotional center, and through our motor centers, okay, will determine how well we respond or react to a situation. And one of the hardest, I guess, one of the hardest perceptual filters to transform energy clearly through is the emotional body, yeah. And that emotional center, that emotional body can really, really start to work its magic within you in whichever way the emotion tends to go. So if you're trying to see clearly whilst you're feeling angry, or whilst you're feeling super happy, or whilst you're feeling anything really, sad, apathetic, jealous, lustful, whatever, then that energy transformation, that sense impression that you're getting, isn't actually being transformed correctly. It's being corrupted, okay, through your subjective substrates, through your filters. So we really have to learn and use these situations outside of us if we want to progress and evolve, okay, into true human beings, to take these sense impressions and transform them in a way which is much more objective and balanced. Okay, and that's really difficult. I'm not saying it's easy. Yeah, I mean, when I saw some of these videos, I was like, oh, hell, right? But the first step is to witness the, yeah? So when you're feeling the, instead of really descending and getting into the, yeah, or the, yeah, or the, oh, you know, the dream, yeah? The illusion of the objective occurrence, karmic phenomena that's happening in front of you. If you can just open up your consciousness a little bit and start to witness what's going on inside you, then you're really making a very, very positive step forward, because you're able then to see more clearly. You're still feeling what you're feeling, which is fine, but by taking that kind of observational viewpoint, what you're able to do then is look at yourself as a three-part being. You're able to say, this is my body and personality. Okay, so my personality, all the conditioned aspects of myself, stuff that I've brought through my ancestral karma, stuff that I've been, had to develop through my survival mechanisms through my life, okay? This body, this personality. How is it being used? Or who's using it and how? Okay, so is my ego using it, i.e. my pride, my lust, my anger, my fear, my apathy, my shame, my guilt? Is that mastering my personality? Is that in charge? Or is that deeper aspect of my consciousness, that more freed aspect of my consciousness, not just, soul's probably not the right word, because soul is an amalgamation of all of it, right? But your essence, okay, more of your spirit, is that mastering, or is that in charge of the personality at that point in time when the sense impression comes? So by witnessing how you're feeling, okay, and by being able to witness how you're feeling, what you're doing is you're saying, there's my personality, there's my sense impression, okay, and now it's triggering an emotion, right? And that emotion has watered my seed of anger, okay, my karma, my ego of anger. And that ego of anger is bubbling up. So my consciousness, or a lot of my consciousness, is trapped in that anger, right? It's trapped in that feeling. It's trapped in my judgment of what's going on. It's trapped in my wanting to react and respond and go out and cause havoc, right? So my consciousness is dreaming in anger at that point in time. But if you can witness that, yeah, you can take a deep breath. One long deep breath is sometimes all that's needed to recenter and transform that energy into something, or rather, not to say into something, but it gives you more of a gap between feeding that ego and making it stronger versus liberating the consciousness from it, calming it, witnessing it, showing it a bit of love, and then taking a more objective, logical response or appropriate response to the situation. Okay, so then you bring in your, let's call it your higher self. You bring in your eagle consciousness into the situation, because you're witnessing it from a greater height. And this morning it was lovely, because I'm working at this retreat centre, and looking out the kitchen window this morning, and there's this little Jenny Wren just in the bushes opposite, and it's a massive bay tree actually, but it was sitting in the bay tree, tiny little Jenny Wren, and I thought, wow, for such a small bird, it has such wisdom. And before I finish the video, there's another story I wanted to tell you, because there was a competition amongst birds, all right, to see who could fly the highest. And you can imagine they all kind of queued up to see who could fly the highest. And there were song thrushes and blue tits and crows and ravens and all sorts. And then there was an eagle, and there was a little Jenny Wren. And so all these birds started flapping their wings and trying to fly really high, okay? And, they all did a great job, yeah? But you can probably imagine the eagle was the one that really got up there and started circling above all of them and looking down on them, And quite proud, He kind of looked at the raven, he looked at the song thrushes, he looked at the blue tits, he looked at the crows and the pigeons all below him and the seagulls squawking away. And he thought, yes, I can fly the highest, I can see the furthest, I am the greatest bird of all. And suddenly he felt this kind of flapping of wings. And he kind of looked up and he saw this little Jenny Wren, slightly higher than him. Okay? And he was like, how did you get up there? And she whispered in his ear, she said, well, I took a lift on your back. You just never noticed me. Now I'm higher than you. And, it's a sweet little story, but it shows that no matter how insignificant, right, or small we sometimes feel we are in amongst the foray of forces and energies that are happening around us, we can still fly on the back of giants. We can still learn from people that have mastered perception. We can still go back to ancient teachings and scriptures from people that know, people that have experienced higher, more freeing, liberated states of consciousness. And we can learn that too, okay? But it requires a bit of discipline, and it requires practice and commitment and willpower, right? So just because everyone else is reacting and responding, reacting and going a bit crazy at the moment, doesn't mean you have to. It doesn't mean that you don't care. It doesn't mean that you shouldn't or couldn't, be part of the energies of what are going on. But what you bring to the table, okay, will either help or incite. It will either help, calm, balance, or it will create more entropy. So really, it's about awareness, right? Awareness, witnessing yourself, witnessing how you're responding to everything that's going on. I'm not saying we don't set boundaries. I'm not saying you can't disagree with what's going on. But what I'm saying is the way you respond is more of a definition of your state of evolution rather than actually trying to affect an outcome. Okay, because sometimes we can't control everything that we have to experience. In life can give us plenty of opportunities to remain stoic, live the amor fati mantra. Love everything, use it as fuel, and use it as fuel for transformation. Anyway, have a great day, and see you next time.